Episode 60. Adult friendships are hard, and so is hosting trade night. Hey, Card fam. It's me, your podcast host, Denny. Denny Cards on Instagram. And thank you for downloading and listening to this episode because, oh man, I missed pressing this record button and putting on these headphones, plugging into the Blue Yeti microphone. That's because even though the last episode aired, or I guess was published on December 18th of last year, 2023, that episode was with Ryan from GemRate in a year in review of grading, which was really awesome, and I really enjoyed having him on. If you're listening, Ryan, thank you for being such an awesome guest, a two-time guest to the pod. That was recorded a couple of weeks prior to that episode publishing. And so, really, the last time I got to press record, put the headphones on, and just start talking into the microphone was probably close to 4 episodes ago. Let me just see. The one I see on my phone is episode 56, the sick episode, and that was from December 7th. And yeah, that's when, I was sick. And well, yet again, even with this almost a 1 month hiatus, because I am recording this the evening of January 5th, I'm sick again. It's not COVID, it's not the flu, and I don't think this can transmit to your ears. Might be bronchitis. I don't know. I feel like I've had this cough for way too long. I have made some reels here and there and been spending a lot of time with friends and family, but I can do like 90 seconds without coughing. So if I do have some radio silence, it's because I'm going to go on mute, kind of like my own personal cough button here. But, well, hold on. That was amazing timing. But yeah, almost an entire month away, or since the last time I recorded. Just seems like an absolute eternity. I feel like a lot has happened in the hobby in the month of December. But yeah, I hope you had a great holiday season, a great time with friends and family, and a good start to the new year. So yeah, I guess let's start with friends. That is part of the episode title for today. The first part being adult friendships are hard, and I have to be, because I always am, but I'll be very upfront about something, and that's with regard to recording this podcast. I haven't done this up to this point, and what is that? It's the following, which is that I try to record part of this episode, and I always just kind of run with what I record. Have I stopped it and like said, you know what, I'm just not gonna run that. Haven't done it until now, and the reason is because it had to do with a situation with someone who I thought was a friend in the hobby, and what I realized is I was just going down such a rabbit hole, and I think it was just kind of like write out talking points and just talk it out and just kind of go through that catharsis. But it really was borderline drama and hobby beef, and I think you all know I love food, but when it comes to the hobby, I am trying to be vegan. Okay. Should have probably made that into a reel, but no, I really am trying to, I just didn't think it was fair to kind of give my side of the story, because I think even though I think I'm right in the right, I think we all always think we're in the right. We're always the protagonists in our own stories. And when you have a platform, even though this one is, still relatively small, it's just not really fair to just kind of speak and then not allow this other person to weigh in and to kind of like talk and give their side of the story. And so, but that just recording it, and whether I delete it or not, I just don't think I'm going to run it. It just was weighing on me. So even for just my own sake, I just wanted to kind of say that out loud. I think maybe I'm coming to realize not everything I record has to be published. Arguably, even this part. Why am I even? Maybe I'll have to think about not publishing this. But, for that one situation, again, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but just brief minor context because it is out in the public. And if you do follow me on Instagram, it just had to do with a post where I wrote an article about setting up as a dealer. And, someone had just real big issues with the way I didn't price my cards. And, you know, um, but like it was an experiment. I gave it a shot. I was sick back then, and then that was the reason. And I just didn't have the time. I didn't have the energy. And then, you know, um, and there's also that kind of like theme that I've been saying recently in, my intros, which is true. It's, I consider myself like self-proclaimed, as a jack of all trades, master of none, which means I kind of do a bunch of things in the hobby and I'm trying to learn my path because I don't think I have an established lane or path. I love podcasting. I love creating content, but, setting up as a dealer, I just not really that good at it. I've fully admitted readily many times I am not good at the transactional side of the hobby, the business side of the hobby. And that's the master of none. So, this person came at me, I think, just unjustifiably and not in the best way. But again, that's just the way I perceived it. So I'm not going to even, you know, say which post it is, but it was a while back. And, so I just wanted to kind of just say that. But also, like, even if I wasn't sick, if I didn't have time to set up, I mean, I guess I could have just not gone. But I have my priorities straight. Family comes first. I wasn't going to go line by line. Well, the previous recording did kind of go line by line about why, just it's not fair and this and that. And, who are you to tell me how to set up as a dealer? It was just, again, it was just good to get out of my system. And I really do not want to use this platform, no matter how big or small it is, to kind of, not allow the other person to tell their side. So, yeah. Speaking of friendships, adults, I think this is the other thing I did want to say is, I'm not going to go into like all my Spotify wrapped, what is it, like the demographic breakdown. Just want to say thank you. Two things I want to say. One having to do with age and adults, but the other thing is there are 9 of you where this is your number one podcast, and that's just amazing to me. I don't know who you are, and it's not like a Liam Neeson taking like I don't know where you are, but I have a certain set of skills. I just thank you. That's all I want to say. You may never reach out to me. I don't know. Um, I mean, you may be introverted or shy, embarrassed, or you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. He's my number one podcast. Listen, that's absolutely ridiculous. I thought I listened to whatever, Bill Simmons or sports cards nonsense more. Um, you know, Hobby with Cage, shout out to those two great hobby podcasts. But yeah, nine of you, and then 30 something. I don't have it in front of me, but 30 something of you, it's like your top 5 podcast. Not going to go into all that data. What I wanted to go into was the analytics tell me that 1% of you are ages 18 to 22, 7% are ages 23 to 27, um, which means that, what is this? I don't even know if these numbers make sense. Oh, yeah, 1 plus 7. 8% of you might not know the following, which is what some of us older collectors know. Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is the cutoff is 27. But for those of you who are under the age of 30, here's the thing. After high school, after college, and after the early bonds of colleagues at work with, happy hours and dinners and nights of drinking and all of that, and of course, COVID kind of short circuited a lot of that. But basically, after your 30s, it is hard to make adult friends. It really is. I mean, you just have your work life and then you have your family life. If you do get married and have kids, like then the complete focus is on your family, or for some people it is. And I think that's why we have hobbies. I think that's I mean, not I think, I know that's why I left the hobby, and I know some people who have really young kids who have not left the hobby, and, you do what works for you, but at least, for some of us, we have this hobby because hobbies are supposed to allow people to connect or to have a reason to connect, to bond, to learn, and to do that in a community setting because we're not meant to do this alone or to be alone. And I guess some people do want to be alone, who want to collect alone. But if they do, I really doubt that they're listening to this podcast or that they're on social media or that they're on forums online like blowout cards and setting up and creating accounts and making messages, and they're going to shows, local card shows or local card shops. I mean, that's just my, I don't know, theory, I guess. I don't know. You can let me know what you think. You can DM me on Instagram. But again, if you somehow want to collect a loan and you don't want any hobby friends, I just don't see how you're listening to this podcast. Or just, you know, how are you? How does that work? I guess, right? I mean, I guess you could just always just buy and not, again, not even sell, or maybe you can sell, but you're just making complete online transactions and you don't want to talk to anyone and you just want to collect. I guess that's possible. But I just don't see how those folks could, listen to podcasts and want to learn from others or watch YouTube and all that. So, but why did I even say all that? Are we past 10 minutes? It's been a while since I've done this, and it is so hard to monologue. Um, what did I want to say? Jeez. Oh yeah, so I don't want to go down the rabbit hole with this individual. Just put it in a nice little bow. I just want to say our hobby friendship may improve later down the road, but right now I think that what happened in 2023 is I was just so excited to have more friends in the hobby and just get to know more people. And I didn't give my phone number out to like everyone. Like I did try to be very selective because that is my personal cell. I don't have like a separate phone for hobby transactions. It was my cell phone. So um, that particular person had access to my cell phone. Didn't really like the tone and approach with the way they handled conflict, conflict resolution, just all that. So, I've blocked them and that could be undone later. I mean, I've blocked people on Instagram, kind of have this desire to just kind of be more like Takemi Matumbo. And I'm not making that into like a hobby resolution, but I know again, I've talked about this in the past. Some creators and influencers like to block a lot, like Takemi Mutombo. Gotta say though, for those of you who are big '90s basketball people, Mark Eaton on the Jazz, he had a ton of blocks. Um, but and then there are some people who don't block at all, and I just don't see how that's sustainable. But whatever works for you. But yeah, this person, just not gonna say their name, all that. You can go back if you want to, but I didn't block them on Instagram. But yeah, I just want to say again, it is the time to make resolutions. And I think I made a reel where, I mean, I know I made a reel where I said I didn't want to make resolutions because I'm going to end up breaking them. But, it's a time of reflection. It's that time of year. And, it's not even a hobby resolution. It's just to have more boundaries and to really just kind of like not tolerate disrespect. There is this post from another complete different person. Can't remember who they were. I would love to give them credit, but they were like, what could I have done to get this card? It seems like I offended this person, but I really wanted this card so bad. In my opinion, unless the card really is super rare, just if it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be, and you can find it another time. But this person on Instagram was like, "Oh, I really should have done better to, you know, communicate with them." But just I saw what they screenshot and posted on Instagram. It was they were dealing with a Mr. Cranky Pants. So, um, I think I might need to just take a break right here because I'm going down a rabbit hole. A couple of them, what is it? Not parallel. Yeah, parallel. concurrently. So, right before I take a break, I'll just say this, which is I know who I am. I don't know who all of you are, but in a way I do because, if you're listening to this, thank you. And, I'm not for everyone. I've said that in the past too, but if you're here, you're probably someone who just, I want to be like, you like thoughtful content. I mean, you like listening to me, so thank you. But, I do things a little bit differently. I'm not these one of these folks who's just yelling bang, and my content isn't like flashy because I feel like there are ways that I can make my content more viable or whatever you want to call it, but I don't do that just because I don't like that content. So, you know we haven't met, but in a way we have because you listen to me and some of you do reach out on DMs, and I really appreciate that. But it hasn't even been a full year, and you only do know me from this kind of parasocial relationship that I've talked about in the past. And I think podcast is a very intimate relationship, and that's why I never want to betray any trusts or kind of like, this is probably the most accurate version of me because it's so long form. I feel like Instagram reels are so short form that I try my best to show who I am there, but even that isn't really me. I feel like I have been utilizing Instagram stories more to kind of show my thought processes on some things in the hobby. So I think that's maybe more me, but it's also I'm choosing what to put out there, right? So, I mean, I thought I knew a bunch of people in the hobby last year. Heck, I thought I knew Rob, the sports car therapist, which, I'm not going to get into all that again because if you've listened to this for a while, I've alluded to him. But yeah, like he influenced me, right? I mean, like, and I've said it, part of the reason I even have this podcast is listening to him and going, "Hey, I think I could do that." So, but I didn't know him, and so that wasn't the case either. So the main thing is I know my value system. I hope you know your value system. And I'm just of the belief that I'm really coming to grips or understanding that it's just not going to align with other people's. And I'm not saying mine is better than anyone else's, but and that really is okay. I just know my inner core, my friends, my close friends, my family, the ones who saw me in the holidays. That didn't have to do with trade night, which will be after this break or this little. Yeah, I need to get a drink of water, but I'm not going to change my value system for the hobby. Kind of like that person who was like, if I could have just said something differently to get this card. Um, I don't know. I just don't think the cards are so important, and I really want cards that I want, but I'm not going to change my value system for the hobby. If anything, instead, I feel like, and again, I don't think this is a resolution. Maybe it is. I don't know. Um, but I think what I want to do is I want to allow my value system to guide me through the hobby and not the other way around. So cool. I think that was really wasn't even my notes. Let me take a break here, get some water, cough, and let's get a word in from a sponsor. Hey, card fam. You ever feel that sting like I have when you sell a card online only to see 12 to 14% of your hard earned money just vanish in seller fees? It's almost like a penalty for using online platforms. But here's the game changer: my card post. Instead of those frustrating fees on every sale, I just pay a small monthly subscription. So that way, I get to keep a lot more in my pocket. My card post is a place where collectors like us come together. It's about building new relationships in a trusted community where we can all safely buy, trade, and sell. BTS. And that's what I'm about: community building and safe transactions. If you want to join, it's free to set up an account if you only want to buy. But if you want to sell and trade as well, you can get started for as little as $9 a month. And I got to hook you up for listening. Use promo code DENNY when you join, and you'll get 30% off your first 3 months. And I'm already there. I have my shop. I'm buying, trading, and selling. And most importantly, connecting. So go to mycardpost.com and use my promo code Denny, Denny. Come check it out. I think you'll really like it. So see you there where my card post every night is trade night. All right, and we're back. I forgot how much this makes my back achy when I lean into the microphone, but you know, uh, just trying to get by, and hopefully it gets easier the more I keep doing this. So if I publish this immediately after I'm done recording, this should be ready for folks who are starting the first weekend of 2024. And so, for us, for my family here, it's the start of youth basketball season for us this weekend. So I am coaching both of my sons' basketball teams, and so my hobby time may become a little bit shorter. But I hope you all have a great weekend. And if you're listening to this next week, or I don't know, later in 2024 or beyond, again, thank you for taking the taking this a listen, giving this a listen, taking a chance on this podcast. Okay, so yeah, I have talked about my kids here and there, but keeping them off social media, that's still a very hard, bright line, strict boundary that I've set with my wife. That's our plan, is to keep those boundaries in place. But before I get to, I guess, or this is the segue, I guess, the biggest card or pull of 2023. I did my top nine or of my favorite, cards. I did a upper deck artifacts basketball tree. But the biggest card, and I should probably make content around this. I think I have a short reel in draft form, but the biggest card that we pulled, I can't even say I pulled because our family pulled it, is when my son, he pulled a Bronny James auto. And it was when we were talking about his favorite players like Scott Skiles and Larry Bird. And I told him about Peja Stojakovic because he pulled his son Andre Stojakovic. So all of that's happening. The camera's on me when I had a ridiculous Fu Manchu. And yeah, he pulled it. And it was, I mean, I think there are two variations, right? There's like one sticker version, and then there's the on card that where it's like a white background. Still really awesome. Not numbered. I think they're all refractors, but again, none of that matters because the fact that he even pulled it was amazing, and I was just so happy for him and capturing that moment on camera and sharing that out to the Instagram community. It really just really makes me, even thinking about it right now, it just gives me a lot of warm feelings and goosebumps and all that. So that pull did occur in my LCS. Shout out Collectors World, not a sponsor, but great local card shop. Great for the community, the local card scene. And so that's the segue into trade night, where I hosted my second one. It was at Collectors World. It was December. See, now I'm forgetting the exact date, but it was like 16th or the 17th, and it was um, it was awesome. I mean, it was a 3-hour event. The first hour was for just kids, quote unquote, because there were some adults there setting up. I don't know what they're doing, but and then 2 hours after that. Oh my gosh, it's been so long. Maybe it was just 2 hours. Maybe an hour kids, an hour adults. Whatever it was, there was for pizza. There was wax specials. Think two specials. I mean, the details aren't that important, right? But whatever. I sometimes go down these rabbit holes. But I think they had like Bowman Sapphire or Platinum baseball blaster boxes for like half off. They had some Tops factory sets that were discounted. If they had basketball, I would have bought some, but I was just like, I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's nice. So, it was a really fun time. I mean, it was bigger than the first time I did a trade night, which is not in a conventional card space. It was like in a uh, industrial chic, I don't know, just kind of like workshop. Very a lot of wood, a lot of kind of like this. wood grainy feel and like these really nice, I don't know, just kind of like holiday lights, and it was just really beautiful. So go back to my Instagram if you want to see it. So anyway, um, it was a great time, but like I know I have this podcast, I have social media, like like creating content. Um, I think I'm getting better at it, but like this isn't. How do I say this? Like it's not easy. It's stressful. I before both trade nights like felt nauseous, and I felt like my palms are sweaty, mom spaghetti, knees weak, arms heavy, all that stuff. Okay. Um it but it didn't mean that I didn't want to do it. Like I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it for the card community. I wanted to, I don't know, like do something fun. And I thought even doing it during the holiday season was going to be a tough sell because people are shopping for presents and they're on holiday travel, and that is those are some reasons why people told me before the fact and after the fact, hey, I'm really sorry I missed it because it was during a hard time. But we had like a bunch of people who came, and the inverse was true. People from out of town came to that one because they're like, oh, my cousin or my nephew collects and he wanted to come here with us. And so there are people from Atlanta, from Utah, from Jersey, Pennsylvania, I don't know, all these random places. And it was just so nice to just kind of, they're all like, thank you for setting it up and all that. And it felt really good. And I guess that is the selfish part, is people saying thank you or, hey, that was fun. Um, and yeah, I got to, my main thing was help host it, MC it a little bit, talk a little bit, kind of talk about the wax specials, because of course the shop there wants to move some wax. Of course, that's their, you know, um, there's of course, there's altruism, and then there's reasons why people want to host things. For me, my contribution from a monetary, not monetarily, monetary standpoint was getting some, I don't know, like small singles, making little mystery packs, giving away some of my own wax that I've kept here, and just kind of like giving it out and thinking about what do kids like. So instead of putting like an auto or a patch of like some retired veteran or some nobody, I was like, I think these kids would rather like base singles of the players that they like. So just no color variation, LaMelo balls and Zions, and I don't think I put in Josh just because that whole thing. But yeah, Burrow, Herbert, and I was like, okay, like what are these kids like? And I've having seen what these kids carry in their like Zion cases that are big as them, some of them. I was like, yeah, this is what they want. So it's funny, this is like a weird thing about social media too, is like I made a post about all the kids coming to grab the mystery bags, and they're it's loud, it's stressful, and I'm saying, hey, come pick them up, and they didn't say thank you on camera. And so there was this commenter was like, oh, did they forget their manners, or did they forget the English language? And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this grown, well, I'm assuming grown person is making criticism about kids. So I just said they texted me later. Of course, they didn't text me, but yeah, at the end of the event, some kids are coming up to me saying thank you and all that. Um, and so that's the benefit. I'm not trying to do it to gain followers or clout. I know there's so many ulterior motives people place on influencers. Like I just want to create community, and I know that's such a resolution that a lot of these other creators want to do for 2024 or whatever. Look, more power to them. If they want help, I'll help them. But there's one thing to just talk about it, and then the other one is to actually be about it. Or what is the Jimmy Johnson? Talk to talk, walk to walk, et cetera, et cetera. So you know, um, it's not easy. It's stressful. And I don't mean like the creation of these mystery packs, but just getting up there and talking to people, and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. Though that is how you grow. Didn't mean for that to rhyme, but yeah, like th- I don't know, there's this whole like narrative, or it's not a mainstream narrative, but I can sometimes I do consume content from what people call like the negativity crowd, and this whole positivity crowd and negative crowd. I don't really even like those labels, but I think you know what I'm talking about. But people who criticize other people's content, and I don't see these as bad people. I do think they have different styles of both personalities and of content. Don't be surprised if I have some of them on this year in 20. Hold on, I gotta. Okay. Don't be surprised if I have some of them on the podcast, because I really do want to understand what the motive and who these people are. And I don't want to just keep othering people, right? It's just learning. Just that's the whole reason for I have this podcast is. But some of the folks who are on this side or on that side of the fences, they say, "Oh, these influencers, they use the kids as shields for the hobby, and oh my gosh, they're grooming kids." And oh gosh, I just think that's so wild, at least for me, because it kind of roused me up, especially because even if I didn't have kids, I just feel like you know there are people who are trying to grow the hobby, and I really do think those are some serious serious accusations. So um I guess the question becomes, why do we want to grow the hobby, like such as myself. First thing I want to say is I don't think it's incumbent on any of us to grow the hobby. After all, it is fanatics who says that they want to 10x the hobby, and they're a corporation, and people make up that corporation, and but the thing is, they get paid to do that, and they have their own what is it, like corporate obligations, and once they go public they'll have shareholder obligations, and there it's all financial, maybe not all financial, but yeah, I mean, corporations, they're there to make money. It's not a nonprofit. So they want to 10x the hobby. I don't think it's incumbent on any of us hobbyists, collectors, anyone in this hobby space who's an individual. Maybe businesses, local businesses want it. My LCS, I'm sure they would love more foot traffic, and streamers want more, breakers want more people in the rooms. But I think the reason I want to grow the hobby is I love this hobby. I know how it felt like to be a kid in it. I've been hoodwinked as a kid. I didn't have back in the 90s, you didn't there was no internet, right? I mean, we're just learning things through Beckett magazines, and through just talking to people in the shop. And if you didn't have a good local car shop owner, and that's why they had all the power, is you could really have some bad transactions, or get hoodwinked. And then there are people who pretend to be your friends because they want to make a trade with you. And then I've talked about this in really early on in this podcast, but someone who I thought was a friend, who all they really wanted was my Michael Jordan scoring king, and then once I gifted it to them, they just kind of ghosted me, which back then I did not know was a term, but they ghosted me. So you know um when it comes to like me, so there's like one part of me that wants to help, not like help educate this next generation, or even the current generation of collectors, so that we can learn from each other and we can grow together, and we can kind of have a more knowledgeable collector base. And then there's this other part of me that's kind of wants to help, because like my kids, hopefully they'll want to be collectors and hobbyists of sports cards, trading cards. And I want it to just be a better space. And I think that starts at the local level. And I know my content is like really for like a national or international, because that's where the reach is. But when it comes to this next generation, like, I mean, again, I don't want to go down like a negative rabbit hole, but there's this post from Tops. Again, I'm recording this January 5th. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at the time. It's turned over into January 6th. It's past midnight. Um, but it was a post from Tops that, what is it? A kid pulled a messy refractor, a super fractor. Sorry, it's been so long since Tops has had basketball. I can't even say superfractor correctly. Pulled a messy superfractor, and you know that kid looks exactly like one of my kids' friends. Okay, and so there's a comment. where it's like, oh my goodness, they made him look terrible and ridiculous. And, I kind of clapped back at the kid. First of all, I didn't know it was a kid until I saw his profile pic. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get into an argument with a middle schooler. But what was just as bad, I felt, as that comment was that, which at the time it had like 100 likes, it might be even more by now. But I guess, yeah, that's what I mean is what was just as bad as that comment being made is that there were like 100 likes on it. And then I'm going through those likes and I'm looking at all these, and they're all like just random names. They're not card accounts. I think near the end there were some more card accounts. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my goodness, look at all these people. They're all just they're dunking on this kid, right? And I was like, oh, some random kid. I'll never meet him. But it's like, you would never say that to this kid's face. Maybe they could, maybe they could or would. But I had a kid on my podcast in the first season last year. Shout out Blake Grice. I don't know if he listens to this, but he and his dad have shown me some pretty nasty, ridiculous comments from the internet about him being on a card, Allen Ginter and all that. But look, I know. Here's the thing: like, I totally know and get that it's practically futile or futile trying to fight internet trolls. It's like punching waves crashing into a beach. But I don't know if we don't try to make this a better place, that's definitely going to happen. It's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy is that we're going to have just like a barren wasteland on social media, I guess. But I mean, look, here's the thing. Maybe I can't help social media. But I know that the people who follow me on Instagram, they're very thoughtful, generous, kind following. I don't even like to use the word following and followers, but you know um, I keep removing the bots, I keep removing the scam accounts, I keep trying to cull the because I just want the inner core of actual people and people who are in the hobby, whether they're in it for monetary reasons or not, I don't know. But people who have card accounts and people who are actually hobbyists. So maybe I can't help social media. Maybe it's a drop in the bucket. But I think that when it comes to trade night, I think that hold on, cough. Ugh. But when it comes to helping this next generation of collectors, maybe I do it with my local card scene, and that kind of goes back to the whole trade night thing. And we had an hour where it's kids trading only. It was pretty adorable. There were definitely some first timers who, even the dad was a first timer. He's like, I think I've seen people do this, and they just like put all their cards out on the table like they were like a dealer. And it's really interesting. The Pokemon community, they use these little like a dot stick dot sticker system, kind of hard to say, where they kind of put in HP for heavily played, MP for medium played, LP for lightly played, because they actually play with the cards. So they kind of use that system to kind of indicate the condition of the card, and then they adjust the prices accordingly. But there was actually genuine trades going on, and these were probably, I have no clue, right? I don't know much about Pokemon, but it was like whether they were dollar cards or $5, $10, $20, whatever cards. I mean, the kids didn't have a lot of slabs, and but it was just really cool to see these kids just making trades. Some of them would ask their parents, some of them would ask me, and I'll be like, I'm sorry, I can help maybe price these out, but I have no clue what chilling fates or something rains or jungle something, which set it came from. I don't know. I can barely read. Can I tell? Oh, I'm gonna say this, and I'm probably have to end this episode soon. But these the what is it? 4-point font that is on these Pokemon cards. I really, literally have to get out a magnifying glass, and I sound so old saying this. I can't believe it, but there's even some sports cards that have this concern. I mean, I guess the joke, some of you may have already thought about it as you're listening to this, which is like, SGC, their certification numbers, painfully tiny. I cannot believe how hard they are to read. Um, but yeah, just helping these kids out. Oh, where was I? I got to get back on this podcast at all. I got to say that. Um, it was really cool to see. And so even though it was stressful, see, there I have it. Brought it all back to the beginning. Even though it was stressful, I know some people don't believe me when I say, introverted. I think I have extroverted tendencies and I can get very excited and do things. And if you see me at a card show, local or regional or national, like you can feel I think someone said you're vibrating with positive energy. And I'm just like really excited, but I'm not like that all the time. And it drains me. I go back to my home or, if I'm traveling, hotel room, and I'm just like exhausted and I'm just like, don't talk to me. But, um, I just, even though some things are hard, I think they're worth doing. And if they're worth doing, you just try your best. So maybe that's something that I want to leave you, the listener, with it, which is don't, I mean, not don't, but like, let's try to grow the hobby, but don't do it for fanatics or tops or anyone else. You know, to just try to do good in the hobby. Um, put yourself in the shoes of a kid and to be like, hey, I don't know if you've had like bad deals as a kid or if you had a bad LCS owner who, would be mean to kids. I've had that happen before too, and it's just like, kind of sucks. Despite that, you're still here, I guess. Despite that, for me, I'm still here. So that maybe it's maybe it's not a precursor. We always worry about people leaving the hobby, but it's like I think we just keep coming back anyway. But just I don't know. Just let's do some good in the hobby in this upcoming year. And again, this is the first podcast recording for 2024. Thank you so much for listening. Still don't have a good outro, but I guess I'll just go to what I feel like I've said in the past before, which is goodbye, Germany, auf Wiedersehen, and I'll talk to you guys again real soon. Oh wait, I meant to say this one last thing. This is this I didn't pull it all together, so I don't know. Some of you may have ended the podcast, and if you did, that's totally fine. So here's what I meant to say at the end, okay? Which is adult friendships are hard, trade nights are hard. Doesn't mean that we don't do them. Just because something's hard doesn't mean you just stop. If it means something to you, if it means that much to you, you keep trying. So keep trying to make friendships in the hobby if you're not, a recluse or someone who doesn't want to make friends in the hobby. But also, um, trade nights again. Talk to your LCS. See if they're willing to work with you. Maybe you provide some small, cards that you can't even sell, or like small cards that you don't want to sell because they're just not part of your um, you're not a good seller is what I mean. But work with your LCS. Maybe they can provide the pizza, or maybe you provide the pizza and they provide the cards. Something, right? Just if that's compelling to you, my last, if it's not compelling to you, my last persuasive statement would be not just think about the next generation, but think about the younger you, right? Like, kind of, again, I know I said put yourself in the shoes of a young collector, but like just put yourself in your own shoes of just remember what it was like being a kid and just like not knowing things. And I know we're in a different era and social media and the internet where all of this information is at your fingertips, but I still have people reach out to me being like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Sometimes you just need a little nudge in the right direction and then they can figure out the rest. But sometimes it's really just that first step and to help that person with that first or second step in their journey. And then they can kind of like lead their way, but they just need to get out of the forest a little bit. So that's the main thing I wanted to say. Took me a second to go full circle. I was like editing this podcast very lightly. When I say editing, dragging things into the publish episode side of Spotify for podcasters. So thank you again listening. I promise there's not going to be another one. Right now, after this one, you should hear the song Rodney Scopes. That's like the little outro music thing. And then we'll be done. And then until next time. Thank you.